I have wanted to create an archway in my studio for as long as I can remember, and it's very chaotic right now, so I thought what better time than the present. So this is meant to be a very simple step-by-step tutorial. This is kind of the vibes I'm going for. I want a really big archway, so that's less like a doorway, more like a walkthrough, you know what I'm kind of saying? So the first step is to measure the distance between the walls. I did that, and then I made 2 cuts. I also decided how wide I wanted my arch, but it honestly was just a guess. So you'll see me screwing these 2 2x4s in the sides right here. And then this little middle section is how wide the walkway is going to be. I kind of measured my body and thought, well, how much space do I need to walk through it? And then this is sort of what I came up with. After that, we have to put our 2x4s on the wall. Now, see how this doesn't fit? You want that. We're going to be putting a 2x4 on the top to create the top of the wall, and you need it to sit in there. So, see how it's going to fit? Yep, there we go. What's hard about a project like this is your measurements are going to be very different from mine, and I'm just here to show you how I got through it all, but your measurements are going to be quite different. So we're attaching those 2x4s together, and then we're doing one last measurement, and this is going to frame out the arch. So that 2x4, you're going to see I'm putting one on each side. We're going to put our arch in the middle of those 2. These are essentially the studs, so attach those to the top piece with some screws. And then you're going to want to get something like a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, but go to the hardware store and look around. You can get some pretty cheap stuff. I have one piece 1/4 inch plywood, and then I have another piece that's like a 1/4 inch mahogany. I paid $15 for it. It doesn't matter what you make this out of, it just has to be very thin. So to make my life easier, I'm putting this piece of wood up with a couple nails, and then I'm gonna figure out where the center of this is. So in between my 2 studs, I'm measuring that. I am gonna find the center, and then I'm just gonna mark that off. I'm taking a screw attached to a piece of string, and then on the other end of that is my pencil, and screwing that in, and then this is how we create our arch. This took a little bit of finagling. I ended up moving my screw a lot lower than I originally had it because I want a little bit of the arch at the top so that it really looks like a wall. So you might have to move that screw up and down. It all sort of just depends on the look that you're going for, but keep your pencil straight and trace out your arch. I'm also tracing out the top of the arch as well and the side because we're going to cut this entire piece out. So I took the board down, took it into the garage, and that's where we're gonna cut it. You actually are gonna need 2 of these arches, one for the back and one for the front. So I actually got this little other piece of board from the hardware store, and I'm clamping them together. I'm gonna clamp them so that I can cut as one piece. I use my circular saw, and then I also use my jigsaw. Highly recommend a jigsaw for this. It makes it so much easier, and yeah. So you need 2 pieces, and I know there's a ton of different ways you can do this arch. I know there's arch kits and things like that, but I wanted a very specific looking arch, like a very large arch, not just in the corners. So this is like the best way I found. Okay, this is really important, so listen closely. The next part, we're going to be putting up some 2x4s. You need to make sure that you trim your 2x4 just ever so slightly. You don't want it to be the same width as your stud. You actually want it to be a little bit smaller so that after, when you go to put up your arch pieces, the arch sits flush with your studs. That way when you go to drywall, everything is flat. So make sure that your 2x4 is a little bit smaller than your stud. So I put up my 2x4 pieces, and then I went ahead and attached the arch. You'll see I added one in the middle as well. I screwed into these pieces of 2x4s, and that's what's holding up the arch piece. I actually went back and added in some more 2x4s because you don't want there to be any movement. So if you add some more 2x4s in there, it will stop, it from bending and that sort of thing. This is quite a tedious job, but you also need to cut little pieces of 2x4 and put them where I'm putting them. I know you don't want to. After you get so far in this, you're like, ugh. But if you don't do that, you're gonna have nowhere to screw your drywall into at the end. So you'll see once I go to put this drywall in, you absolutely need to do this. When it comes to drywalling, and this was like really my first time using drywall, I don't work with it a lot. I just took my drywall and put it up against the arch, and then I took a pencil and I traced it out. I ended up cutting the arch spot of the drywall with a jigsaw. You can cut drywall with an X-Acto knife, but I just feel like if you're not doing a straight line, it's quite hard to do. So anyways, that's how I did this. Took it outside, cut it all up, and we were good to go. Look at this. It's a great fit. Drywall is fun. Let me tell you, it's fun to work with. There are specific drywall screws that you should be using with drywall. Honestly, they're just called drywall screws. You can get them anywhere. You'll see for this piece, I did actually screw it on first, and then I used an X-Acto knife to cut it out. But look at my freaking face. It's hard, and I'm not very strong. I'm sure if I were stronger, this wouldn't have been so bad. You could have cut your arch while the drywall was up, but I didn't. So anyways, here's the little piece that we're putting around the arch. I am scoring the back of it so that the drywall actually will be flexible with the arch. And remember when I told you you had to put all those little pieces of 2x4 in? Well, this is why. When you go to apply this piece, you need something to screw into. See? I know. At the end of it, I was just like, I have to do that, don't I? I do. I have like this drywall screw gun. It's my contractor's. He let me use it. So I'm so sorry that it looks so fast when I do it. But I just applied that piece of drywall up there. I also did the sides. If you guys aren't familiar with cutting drywall, when you're cutting straight lines, it's quite easy. So I just go ahead and figure out what the width of my drywall piece needs to be. And then I take this little T drywall square thing. I don't know the names of things, but anyways, put that on, and then that's how I get like a perfectly straight line. I take my X-Acto knife, I score it, and I score pretty hard. I usually go over it twice, flip the drywall over, crack it, you'll see, perfect line, and then I just cut the back, and then you're left with like this perfectly sized piece of drywall. It's much easier to cut straight lines than it is to do the arch. I will say that. The thing I was most worried about was the corner bead. I had done a lot of research, and this is what I ended up using. It's like a flexible corner bead. To make it even more flexible though, I went ahead and like put some cuts in it. I did way too many cuts, okay? If you're doing this and you're using the same thing, I would just do like, I don't know, cuts every like 4 or 5 inches. This was way too much, and it was a biatch to mud. So don't do this. But it's good to add a couple cuts in there to make it even more flexible. But good thing about this stuff too is you can use like a spray adhesive. I just got mine from the hardware store. It's not like any special spray adhesive, but it comes in this like gigantic can. You spray it on, and then you wait for it to get tacky, and then you can apply your corner bead directly to the spray adhesive. It's pretty cool. There's a couple ways. There's a couple different kinds of corner bead that you can get. There's some more that's like plastic, but this is what was available to me at Home Hardware. I live pretty far from like a Home Depot and a Lowe's, so this worked perfectly. Again, I just wouldn't suggest doing as many cuts as I did. You can work in larger pieces. I just wasn't sure how this was going to go, so I started with a small piece and worked on the arch first. Next up, you're going to mud all of your corner bead, and you're going to mud all your drywall screws. And, if you haven't done it before, it's going to take you a while to get used to it. What I would say is you're going to have to do multiple layers. You have to, I put it on, and then I waited and sanded and did another layer, and it takes time. So don't rush it. It also takes quite a while to dry depending on what you use. It doesn't dry well in humidity, but I think it's one of those things that the more times you mud, the better you get at it. And I wasn't really that great at it, but it turned out really good. I threw on a coat of white paint, which is the Simply White color by Benjamin Moore. That's what color the whole office is. And I love this. I'm so thrilled with the way that this turned out. I'm so stinking happy. Look at the before. Look at how sad and just like uninviting it is to work in there. Okay. Now look at the after. Doesn't that just make you want to? It looks like a spa. Like, it's so calming. And anyways, if you have any questions, I'm linking everything in the description of the video, but I hope this helps you create the arch of your dreams. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
We can pretend that we're just friends, yeah. But who are we kidding?